How are you, Ebony? It's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too. It's long time no see. Let me make sure that I can I'm trying to fix something here.
Okay.
Is there like a zoom out option? No, that's okay. What is
I
this?
see some folks joining us. Thanks to
Yeah.
everyone who's here.
Okay. I know like I'm a little lower on the screen, but it's because I'm using my iPad. So that's why I tried to do the turning thing, but this is okay as well. I'm doing well, actually. It's the last day of PA week, so it's kind of funny that it just like coincidentally, this coincidentally happened on PA week. So I'm like excited. And I know that we were thinking about doing this in the summer, but I'm actually really grateful that we're doing it now versus the summer because I feel like I have just more knowledge and I've gotten more experience now and I don't really know what I would have been able to really tell in the summer. But yeah, it's been a long time.
And that's in large part because you're doing a dual degree, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. I know there's a lot of catching up to do. You graduated in 2019, correct?
Yes, in 2019. And then I did go to one homecoming, which was the 2019 homecoming. And then I haven't been to another homecoming since because just school has been very heavy. So.
Sure. Well, hopefully we'll see you again soon, one of these years. Yeah. So Ebony, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you have a sense of what the next step is. I do want to welcome those who are watching. Actually, I think this is going to be a really valuable conversation for our current students. It seems to me that the PA route is becoming a more and more appealing option for students. I used to joke that when I first got to the OAE and met the Hammond Scholars, it felt like everybody wanted to be a doctor.
Yes.
And there's still a high number of pre-med students, but I do feel like in my conversations, a lot of students are starting to look beyond the MD and still be in healthcare. And so that's where I think this conversation could be really illuminating for those students. So why don't we start by just kind of giving some background information on yourself. So where you grew up and how you came to the University of Miami.
Yeah, okay. So I am originally from Brooklyn, New York. A lot of my family is there, but I was raised in Orlando, Florida. I've been in Florida for most of my life. And just like you were saying, how a lot of students come to University of Miami just having like that doctor idea, it's like ingrained in their head. That was me. I was telling my mom for the longest, I want to be a pediatrician. And just like the MD was the only thing that I knew. And I kind of got very, very blessed to be able to go to after I got the Hammond Scholarship. That was the best news ever because I knew that I wouldn't have been able to go if I did not have that. My parents are both from the Caribbean and I'm a first generation student. And so it's kind of been like a tough journey to get to where I am now just because like not really having as much guidance. And that's okay because I feel like I really do take initiative. And so there were just other resources for me to use to kind of be successful. And so getting to was amazing. But I definitely did start out with the MD idea. And then I kind of figured out that I wanted to be a PA the summer between my sophomore year and my junior year. So it was a big transition, but I just feel very lucky and blessed. And I really don't regret anything that I've done to get here.
That's awesome. I didn't know you were from Brooklyn, Ebony. I was born in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn, and like that's where like a lot of my family is right now still. Brooklyn and the islands. And so my family, like my immediate family, we were the only ones that moved from Brooklyn to Florida. And so I didn't really get to have a really close relationship with like my cousins, my aunts, uncles, and everything. So whenever I did get the chance to go back to New York, it was so nice because I feel like I never had that close extended family like feeling that a lot of people do get blessed to have. So
yeah, okay, cool. I actually remembered Orlando, but I don't know if I knew Brooklyn. I wasn't your advisor. I was thinking about this the other day. I know we got to know each other your senior year a good bit, but I know I didn't advise you for the first few years. So take us back to that kind of critical decision point, maybe a fork in the road for you where you hopped off the MD path and started looking at alternate pathways. So where was your head at that time? What were you thinking about? And what was it about PA specifically that drew you towards it versus, say, like nursing or ARMP or any of the other options you might have?
Yeah, of course. So I was super excited to just be in medicine. I knew that's what I wanted to do for the longest. That was something that was never going to change. I went through my freshman year and my sophomore year as a health science major, and I had like all of these other minors. But I think when I started realizing like the length of schooling that was going to be involved, in addition to kind of realizing that for me, it wasn't about having the doctor title. It was more about like what I was doing. That's when I realized like, oh, like maybe I really don't want to be a doctor, even though I still do want to be in healthcare. So I feel like that's like the first big question you have to ask yourself when you try to figure out if you want to do the MD-DO route or the PA route or any other routes, because that's a big thing, you know? And so between my sophomore and junior year, I was like very conflicted. Over the summer, I actually was just like on YouTube. I was doing something so random, like trying to figure out how to, I think like some styles for my hair, because I was struggling with like doing my hair at the time. And then I just like crossed this video by this woman that I'll like never forget, because she pretty much changed my life. Her name was Adana, the PA, like that was her YouTube channel. And she was discussing like all the different paths in healthcare. And so I clicked on it just because I was interested in that at the time. And she was actually a PA student at the time. And so she started describing like what PAs are, what they do, and the fact that PAs were able to still prescribe, diagnose, treatment, like do treatment plans, and just so many different amazing things. But not only that, they also have the opportunity to switch specialties throughout their career. I just thought that was amazing. And still being able to, help patients, advocate for your patients, like all of that, I still wanted to do that. And so when I found out about the PA profession, it kind of just felt like, that moment where it's just like, like you have like a weight lifted off your shoulder. You just know that this is exactly like what you were meant to do. And that's kind of what happened. And then like from that very day in the summer, I just switched. I didn't really have to change much because I was already taking the correct prerequisites. Right. But I did have to start thinking about the extra requirements that PA schools had, such as getting patient care experience. I never had any type of actual direct patient care experience. And so I had to start looking up what I could. And I kind of wanted to accelerate the path because I was already going to be a junior. And so I looked into becoming like a CNA or any other direct patient care experience. And I realized that since that was the fastest way and like there was accelerated routes, like I just decided to do that. But I did get a lot of rejections from hospitals because when you don't have already, like you don't have experience already, they're not willing to kind of hire you. So it took like one person that took a chance on me, and I was able to start getting my patient care experience from there. And so I chose PA mostly just because of just my personality and what mattered most to me. I liked being a part of a team. I liked the fact that I could switch specialties. The schooling would be shorter, and I would still be able to do everything that I really wanted in a career just without having the doctor title, because it took me a while to realize that that was never important to me. And nurse practitioner is also like another option that's very similar to PA, but I didn't have any nursing background and I never started on a nursing path. So that's that's a reason why I didn't choose nurse practitioner as well. But the roles are very similar.
Okay. I think you, or I hope this video opens eyes just like Adana the PA did for you.
Yeah.
Was that the name, Adana?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you have Adana and the YouTube algorithm to thank for finding your eventual career path.
Exactly.
Yeah. Take us back to your days. What were some of your out of the classroom involvements? What did you do on campus?
Yeah. So I think I'm really big on like mentorship and just giving back, because I like know that I know that I was in the shoes of people that were like interested in coming to and like, we all have a journey. And so every step of the journey that you're on, you're somebody else's idol. So even though like I was in undergrad and I looked up to somebody that was in PA school, there's somebody in high school that's looking up to me. And so I wanted to give back in this way by just speaking through my experiences. And so one way that or kind of two ways that I was able to do that was through President's 100 and being an orientation leader. I love doing those just because there would be new students trying to look into what UM had to offer, and just the fact that I was, already a student there and I had different experiences, I was able to answer them with my own personal stories, and that always felt good because I felt like it was making an impact on the students that were interested in coming to UM. And then I was also a part of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I also enjoyed that because we had a lot of different events on campus, and a lot of things we did included community service and like mentorship programs. And so just doing that, it felt like I was just like extending my love towards other people outside of academics, because I know we definitely go to school first for academics, but there's just so much more you can get involved in.
Sure.
And another thing that I really enjoyed was being a part of Caribbean Students Association, just because I am Caribbean myself, and culture is a really big, important thing for me. I'm actually very sad right now because I missed Miami Carnival. I did go last year, but I didn't get to go this year because school is really crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was also a part of Caribbean Students Association, and that was just a fun kind of social fun time as well, getting like our word about our culture out there.
Great. Well, you shouted out some great opportunities, so
Yeah.
a lot to take away. Talk a little bit about the application process for PA. I come to know the application process for MD pretty well, but I don't really know the ins and outs of the PA app process. So talk about that, and maybe also sprinkle in your decision to pursue an MPH at the same time. How did that come about?
Yes, I'll get to the MPH story kind of later. It was very random. But so the application process to become a physician assistant, it's called CASPA, and it stands for Centralized Application Service for Physician Assistants. A mouthful. But basically it's a kind of site where you can apply to many PA programs all at once. So it encompasses all of the different schools that do have their applications on there. And it's very easy because you can just kind of fill out one application and then it goes to all the schools, in addition to the different requirements that the schools need, such as like maybe separate essays. So you can pretty much put everything on there, mostly from maybe like the end of high school all the way up until, as long as it's relevant to, the PA career, and maybe like outside hobbies that would set yourself apart from other applicants. So some of the things that were on there included volunteer experience, shadowing hours, direct patient care experience, healthcare experience, because it's different, because direct patient care might be like you actually working with a patient and like having contact with them, versus healthcare experience, which might mean that you were like behind a desk answering calls, but you were still in a healthcare facility. It included your personal statement, which is, I believe it's the same prompt every year, kind of like telling you why you want to be a physician assistant. And it's always best to kind of like have a story line within that. And what else is included? Oh, reference letters, which are super important because it's really good to keep in contact with like professors and people from undergrad, and also make new connections at your patient care job, and just community opportunities too. So it was a very tough application, just because you want to get everything right, or you want to make sure it tells your story, And so personally for me, it took a month to do it. I worked on it one time a day by day for a couple hours. And I just wanted it to be encompassing of who I was as a person. I ended up applying to 11 PA programs total, but only one had the PA and PH dual degree, which was where I'm at now. So I kind of decided to apply to the MPH program last minute. And I didn't really realize that I would want to do something like this until I saw that GW had the opportunity. So basically I was focused more so on like being a clinician, being a provider. And then when I saw that GW also had the dual degree, first of all, it was like just one extra paragraph that you had to write to apply to it. So that was very helpful and nice. But also, I did have experience with public health already. It was one of my minors, and I realized I actually did enjoy those classes. Public health is so important when it comes to educating patients and talking about prevention of certain diseases. And I also knew that I wanted to get involved in healthcare management too, whether that was after I finished my career as like a provider or maybe some point during. I just wanted to get more involved in leadership. And I'm also I love the idea of like global health too. So I had a lot of different interests. And I kind of just said, I feel like this MPH would really help out with all those interests. I can put it to good use. If I want to do program planning, I learned a lot of tangible skills from the classes I took. And I feel like it would just mix so well with having the PA degree too. And also one thing I wanted to add is that because I do want to eventually do some work globally, I feel like the MPH degree is more known globally, as PA is still a growing career. And if I can show people that I do have this MPH degree, like I feel like that is the first thing that they might notice, and then that might open doors for me, and then I can also advocate for the PA profession and just tell people like how awesome PAs are and like what they do. And yeah, so
okay, cool. We do have a question in the chat. I'm not sure if you saw it, but
No.
I believe it's Dahlia asked, what would you say was the most important part of your application?
Ooh, okay. Thank you for the question, Dahlia. So, I think honestly, the most important part I would say to everyone is definitely the personal statement. It's where you should take the most time, because that I feel like can honestly make or break the application. I always suggest starting with a story that just can really show why specifically you want to be a PA, but nothing that's like super drastic and cliche where it's kind of like, oh, you were like on the plane and somebody passed out and that's when you realized you wanted. I feel like that's very cliche and like they don't want to hear that specifically, but more so just something real. It doesn't have to be like wow, like whoa, that happened. You know, it's just you have your personal experiences, and if you know how to articulate it well and integrate it into the prompt, I feel like that just shows like who you are more and your interest in becoming a PA. So I just feel like that definitely the personal statement, because you can just be creative with it, and everyone's is so different. But a lot of people have the same type of volunteer experiences. Everyone has the same prerequisites. Everyone has shadowing, like, you know. So since those are so similar, the personal statement allows you to set yourself apart the most.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. So thanks for the question. If others have questions for Ebony, go ahead and drop them in the comment box, and we'll definitely try to get to them. I wanted to ask you about your transitions. This is a question I like to ask students who've gone on to other degree programs. How do you compare your transition from college to what you're doing now to the transition you made coming out of high school and starting college?
Oh man. Okay. Yes. I love this question. So I'll start from high school to undergrad. So like I was telling you earlier, I didn't really have that much guidance with that just because of being a first generation student. So when I did start undergrad, my first semester was kind of just like I did not know that I was going to get hit as hard as I did. Because to me, undergrad was not that difficult, but I still ended up like failing a class, like getting a D, getting a C, and I was not used to getting those grades at all. Like in high school, I was the straight A, top of the class student all the time, and I barely had to study like at all. I would just flip through things and like it would just stay. And so I was just like, okay, like undergrad will be the same. Like I don't see why I have to change anything. And so once I saw that happen to me at the end of my first semester here, I honestly think I was put on academic probation for like the semester. I don't know if it was academic probation or it was another step that comes before academic probation. But yeah, it was very scary because that never happened to me before. And so that transition, I really had to realize that I was in a whole new place with so many different new opportunities, and I just had to work hard. I couldn't play around. Obviously, I was allowed to have fun too, but I had to remember like what I was there for. And so I just honestly had like an upward trend throughout undergrad, just because I knew that I still wanted to go to medicine. I have to take myself seriously. And I didn't really have imposter syndrome in undergrad. Like I knew I was supposed to be there. I knew that if I earned something, it's because I earned it and I worked hard for it. The transition though from undergrad to PA school was so different because I did feel good about my application and getting in on my first try, because I know that that's like a big thing that people are worried about. But when I actually got here, it was very hard because once my parents left after helping me move in, I ended up just having like a breakdown. Like I cried, and I didn't realize that I had like this attachment to them still until I actually like moved up here because it was so far from Florida. So going from high school to it was from Orlando to Miami. It's still in Florida, but then going from Orlando to DC, that's a 12-hour drive, you know? And so that hit me really hard at first. And then once PA school started, I had really bad imposter syndrome, which I never experienced before. And so I guess if anyone doesn't really know, imposter syndrome is just where you feel like you don't belong in this room of amazing, other beautiful people, because you feel like the experiences that you have just are not as great as the people around you. And you just feel like you don't belong in the same space, but you do, and you were accepted for a reason, right? So that was a huge thing for me, and I had to like think to myself every day, like, why am I here? What did they see in me, and can I do it? So that was a part of the transition, and I didn't come to this program playing games and messing around like in undergrad. I did not start off with bad grades because I already knew it was going to be hard. So I pushed myself way more than I ever did. I like study pretty much every day, and I know that this is my career now, so I especially have to take it seriously, because once I'm out of this program in 2024, I'm seeing patients. Like that's like a real thing, and I have to just keep telling myself like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's hard right now, but like I put in a lot more work academically now, and I just think it'll be worth it. So that's just how my transition has been.
Well, Ebony, listen, that's one, thank you for sharing that, for being so honest. I think it's really, really helpful for our current students to hear that not everything went perfectly, that the transition was not a breeze, that you weren't always a 4.0 student, and you still got to where you want to go. That's a really important message to hear. And it's something that we as advisors try to put out there. That experience you outlined of high school coming so easily and expecting it to be the same in college is a very common experience from my view. So it's something we try to warn against, but it's also one of those things that you kind of have to experience, right? Like you study for your first round of exams and you realize, oh, this is a different ball game. So thank you for sharing that. I did want to touch on some of the comments coming through. I think we had a question about how you chose the PA route and how you expressed that on the application. I think you answered that earlier in our conversation, so I would refer the person who asked that question back just probably like 10 or 15 minutes ago. And we'll post this after we finish. And then the next question I saw come through was about advice on staying calm while waiting to hear back from schools after interviewing.
Yes, that's a good question. Thank you for that. Because I had the same issue. I'm a very like jittery, anxious, controlling type person. Like I try to control every part of my life, and that was something I could not control, and so it really affected me. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. So I would say try your best not to check the forums, even though I know we all do, because interview dates, there are multiple interview dates, and just because you didn't get invited to the first interview does not mean that you're not a good applicant, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to get reached out to later. You know, it just might be the order of things, like you never know. And so I would say definitely that. I would also say distract yourself. If you need to, you can pick up more shifts at work, but if you don't want to do that, you can travel and like do things that you haven't done yet before PA school starts, specifically because when you get here, time is very limited, and you're gonna wish that you did. So I guess like those were my main ways of staying calm, like trying just not to be on my laptop scrolling through the forums all the time, and then just enjoying like who was around me, family, friends, my boyfriend, like anybody who was around, and just traveling, like going on road trips, going outside, breathing. Those are all important. Definitely like deep into your hobbies, listening to music. I would definitely recommend all of those.
Cool. Thank you, Ebony. So I see a good question come through here about shadowing. So, and Ebony, I might have missed this when you were talking through kind of your pathway. I had a question about a gap year, and so maybe I'm trying to figure out how to piece that together. Did you take a gap year or two to get your clinical hours up? Was that it?
Yes. So
okay. Talk about that and any shadowing experiences you might have had.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Because in my gap years is when I did my shadowing and my clinical experience. So I graduated in 2019, May 2019, and then I started my patient care job as a patient care tech in a hospital in June 2019. So I really had like a month between graduating and working, and I was just kind of sitting there just like, I'm bored. You know, what should I do? But then once I started working, it felt good. I was just like, okay, like now I really feel like I'm on the pathway. And it was a good working experience, but it was hard at the same time because patient care tech work, CNA work, you have to be on your feet a lot. You have to, you have to go in like expecting the unexpected. Like you don't know the patients that you're gonna be with that day. And then you have to just be good at working with different personalities because you have nurses that you're talking to, you have your nurse manager and other healthcare members. So that's what I did for my patient care experience. I also tried to scribe at the same time in the emergency department. So I did sign up for that in like October 2019, but then I realized that I didn't want to do it anymore. So I never finished my training. And that's okay. I feel like if you're interested in something, you should try it out. If you don't feel like it's doing what it needs to do for you, just don't do it. Because I really felt like it was draining my mental health, and not the job itself, but maybe like the way, like the logistics about it. So I just left. I never finished my training completely, and I just want you guys to know that that's perfectly okay. Like your pathway is never going to be straight up. It's going to have a lot of waves in it, and that's fine. So all I ended up doing was picking up more shifts at my first job, and that ended up working out perfectly fine. So yeah, I worked as a patient care tech from June 2019 all the way up until April 2021. So I ended up having almost 2 years without being in school. So I kind of had 2 gap years, and I ended up shadowing in 2020 right before the pandemic hit. So I ended up being really lucky because I was able to go in person right before they stopped having in-person shadowing. And I ended up shadowing this PA that my mom was actually seeing and did not know that really she was a PA until like a random day when I don't know how she figured it out, but she said, Ebony, I'm actually seeing a PA, like you should come with me. And I asked her to shadow. And I was like, wow, like no way. So I went with her. I just sat, just observing the appointment. And then I kind of like snuck my way like up to her, and I just said, hi, my name's Ebony. I'm a pre-PA, and the whole spiel. And she was so awesome and flexible and willing to let me shadow her. And it was a really, really good experience. And I only shadowed for 2 months. I only shadowed one PA, and I shadowed her for 2 months. And that ended up being enough for me. I did shadow doctors in the past as well, but that was when I was still interested in going to med school. But so I did definitely want to find a PA that I could shadow. So I was very lucky to have her to shadow. But then after that, a lot of the shadowing opportunities became virtual, and it kind of freaked a lot of people out because they didn't know if virtual shadowing would be accepted. But I am here to tell you guys that virtual shadowing is definitely okay. There's a lot of virtual shadowing opportunities. If you follow different PAs on Instagram, they're always doing, you know, virtual shadowing opportunities. And so it definitely still counts in CASPA. And, you know, schools know that because the pandemic happened and you still have to find a way to make things work. But also I'm hearing that a lot of schools are not really focusing on shadowing as much anymore. And that's another good thing too. So.
Okay. So you said you did 2 months of shadowing. How many hours per week would you say you were doing?
I would say maybe 8 hours because
Okay.
I shadowed her maybe like twice a week, 4 hours. Yeah. And then, and then I ended up I had like under 100 hours for sure when I finished. I believe I had around 60 because I think I skipped 1 or 2 weeks. So.
Okay. So to the person who asked that question about the best number of hours to have, I guess, you know, that amount was good for Ebony and would probably vary for each person. My own personal advice would be something like shadow enough that you gain a lot of confidence in the path and that's what you want to do, or enough to call into question that it's maybe not what you want to do. That's my 2 cents. Another great question here. What's a common misconception about PA school?
I'm trying to think of any myself that I might have had.
Or maybe another way to ask that would be like, has anything surprised you about PA school?
I wouldn't say anything surprised me, but it's really just because I had a PA Instagram account, and so I followed a lot of PA students and PAs, and so I really got that deep dive into what being a PA student was like already. So I knew it was going to be difficult. I knew it would be like drinking out of a fire hydrant. I knew it would be just tough, and you get to learn a lot about yourself in this process. I will say that I guess one thing that I didn't think would happen that kind of has happened is my natural instincts or like personality traits that I have that were kind of minimal are blown up now. And one of our professors actually did say that if you come in like, how do I say this? If you come in and you're somebody that's like a little bit controlling or like you kind of like want to have control over your life, you're gonna like, it's gonna get blown up. It's gonna be like 10 times more. And so he said, like, if you already have, like, you're a sad person naturally, like, it might just blow up 10 times more. And it's going to be, like, you're going to have, like, these very emotional, like, maybe even traumatic experiences. I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be real. But it's just something that you have to go through with your classmates because I feel like they're the only ones that truly understand what is going on because you guys are all going through the same thing together. I will say, I can also answer this with another experience as well. I thought that PA school was going to be, you know, a little bit competitive just because I feel like that's how med programs are in general. But when they say, like, it's not that competitive, like, I really feel like it's not. So my classmates are, like, very collaborative and willing to work together. And so I feel like that's something that I didn't really know if that was going to be true just because I wasn't really sure. But in terms of like my class and how we're doing and studying, like we're very collaborative and we do work together. So I will say that's also something that's maybe not surprised me, but I found out.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So you've mentioned Instagram accounts, PA Instagram accounts that you followed a few times. That sounds like that was pretty helpful for you.
Yeah.
It might be helpful for some who are watching this. Are there maybe 2 or 3 or 4 that you might recommend?
So bad off the top of my head.
Okay.
But
okay.
Maybe, okay. I know the PA platform has some good stuff. Diversity PA. and maybe just like, I don't know, like in the search bar typing PA, and
Okay.
there
Okay.
might be some, but just because the fact that I had like my Ebony Eddy PA account, other PAs were able to like randomly find me too and PA students. And so once they followed me, I followed them back, and then that just kept happening until the community grew and grew. And I really do like the community on here. Being a pre-PA, there's just so many helpful resources. So
Okay.
I try to do the same now as a student.
That's great. And sorry to put you on the spot, but that just seemed like a helpful thing. Maybe students could check out who you follow, and maybe find some accounts that way.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't want to take too much of your time, and I like to keep these to a digestible length. But I did have one more question for you, and that's basically, what does the future hold for you, Ebony?
Oh, what does the future hold? I still wish I knew, but if I had an ideal future, I would graduate on time, 2024 in May.
Okay.
And personally, I feel like I would like to be in women's health, any type of women's health career as a PA, just educating women, helping prevent certain diseases, just making sure they're more aware about their bodies, whether that's in just like obstetrics, gynecology, and even the PA I shadowed, she worked in breast surgical oncology. And when I tell you, like, I was amazed at her job in the way that she was able to go be in the clinic, be in the OR, doing surgery. And so there was just so much that she was involved in that I really loved. So ideally in one of those, even primary care I'm looking at, but I haven't gone on rotation, so I don't know what that's like yet. And then in terms of living, I feel like just being like a Florida girl, I feel like I do want to be somewhere like along the coast. I'm in DC right now, but I cannot move any more north of this. Like even like the snow here is not even bad. I love having seasons. It's really nice, but this is the most I can do. And I feel like I will be going like a little bit more down south. We'll see when it comes to like job opportunities. But yeah, just like making sure I keep in contact with my classmates because they're going to be my colleagues. And I don't know, just sharing my light and spreading my experiences. And even starting next year as a clinical year student, I do want to pick up more mentees, because I have only one right now, but that's all I can handle. But I know as a clin year student, I do have a little bit more time. So I feel like I'm going to try to do that. Like maybe put out some type of application that people can sign up to be a mentee for me. So yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Cool. Well, Ebony, listen, we appreciate you. We're proud of you. We're rooting for you, and we're excited to see where things go. Thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah.
I know that Miami does not have a PA program. And when I was a student there, I don't remember who I talked to, but it was somebody that was like in charge of the a medical director, somebody. And I was asking them, like, why don't we have a PA program? Like, why don't we have a this, that, and the third? And I don't think they were able to tell me like a good reason. So in the future, I do hope Miami does have a PA program, and it would be so nice to like be a part of setting that up. So I feel like that's like another goal of mine. If that could happen, that would just be another dream I have. But at this point, I'm just speaking, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for that. Maybe the right person will watch this and hear that PSA and make it happen. Or maybe we'll see you back on campus one of these years, and you'll be making it happen.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you, Ebony. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you. You take good care.
You too.
I'll talk to you soon.